So I am going to shoot this video showing some of my throwing techniques, which are by no means perfect and by all means need a lot of improvement. I like throwing with these bats because when I'm done with the piece, I just take the whole piece off with the bat and don't end up getting it all wobbly trying to pick it up. I'm terrible at picking it up. There's calipers you can use to pick it up. I tend to gouge my pieces that way, so I like these bats, and they fit right into the pins into the wheel, and it's really easy to throw with it. So in any case, I'm going to start with about 3 pounds of clay right here. I'm going to make a mug out of this, and 3 pounds of clay seems like a heck of a lot of clay for a mug, but between trimmings and especially once the moisture has left it, we are going to be down probably 20% of this size. So starting with that, I want to get it on there nice and good for centering. Make sure it's packed down there. I have definitely gone to center it and go whew, flinging it off, and that's when all the F-bombs start going. So, oh, and if you don't like swear words, you probably don't want to watch this video. In any case, I don't know if there'll be any. So I'm going to center my clay, want it as wet as it can be, wheels going as fast as you can get it. I cone up to center. And I've seen a lot of different techniques. I used to really hate centering. I was terrible at it. So for me, this really worked the best. The wheel's going is at maximum speed for this. Cone it up and then fold it down. And that puppy gets centered pretty quickly. I like to keep it pretty wet, so I always have, after I've done that, I tend to just always keep a sponge in one hand. There's one sponge that I'll use when I'm pulling, but for this one it's just nice to keep the clay wet. You don't want it to get dry in any spots, because then you can get your hand caught on a dry spot and just fling it out of place, which is a big pain in the ass. So I look good and centered there. I tend to stop and like go around and clean up all that stuff. I'm a little anal retentive, so which isn't always good for a potter because it's pretty messy work, but I won't do that right now. Alright, so I've got it centered. Now I want to drop a hole in the middle. Again, I'm going all out as fast as I can. I'm going to drop the hole to about a ½ inch from the bottom. I leave a little bit more on the bottom because I like to trim a decent foot. And then I'm going to pull that sucker out. Look at that. The other thing you'll see me doing constantly is taking the water out of the bottom. That's because you don't want to oversaturate one part of the clay more than the other, and the bottom tends to get oversaturated. So once I've gotten it to about the width that I want, I then change my sponge to this other one, if I can find it in my bucket, which is just a more dense sponge. I like it. Slow my wheel down, and this is when the pulling begins. So I'm going to pull from the outside. My inside hand is really just there to brace. I'm not pushing against anything. Every now and then you'll hear some fluttering, and that's when my sponge hits the corner of this, which, yeah, it can be painful if you get your hand caught on it, but you get kind of accustomed to throwing with it. So I'm pulling from the bottom, I'm lifting it up. I'm not pulling all the way through to the top, or else I'd end up with this point. My clay would get too thin. The goal is to get that, my goal here is to get the complete evenness throughout. So pull that sucker up. So it's interesting. Today I've thrown with 3 different clay bodies. One of them was a reclaimed clay that I had reclaimed over the last couple weeks and had gotten a little bit too dry. Oh man, that sucked to throw with. I did it and I got some pieces out of it. They're not like, man, it took like twice as long, so much more energy to center it, and I hate it when I do that, but it wasn't so hard that I wanted to try to reclaim it again. And then the second batch of reclaim was more damp, much nicer. This is actually just straight from a new bag. So pulling up from the outside, my inside hand is just guiding. My outside hand is also stays somewhat below that inside hand. You can see I get that nice little pull. I don't worry about that little bobble right there because, as you'll see, it'll straighten out. I just keep my hands nice and steady. Go inside, get rid of that extra moisture. And if I end up with what looks like a nuclear tower like Chernobyl, or no, what's the other one? Oh, I can't think of it. Oh, you've probably already thought of it. Like 3 Mile Island. Anyway, I'll take this other wooden tool that I love and I'll just pull some extra off. This is why I always throw with 3 pounds of clay for a bug. With my needle tool, I'll scrape it from the bottom, stop, pull that out, boom. So much easier. And then I'll clean that up some more. Pulling from the bottom. I'm gonna get this sucker nice and tall, pretty skinny. When it gets so tall that I can't reach inside, like right now I have this awesome sponge that I can just stick in, grab the water, and awesome. Still pulling up, it's still got a little bit more thickness than I want, even though it does thin out a little bit once all of it has dried out and it's gotten to bone dry, but it's still thick. That's pretty thick. I'm gonna keep going. It's kind of fun to watch other people pull. I watch these videos online all the time. It's super satisfying. The other videos that I love watching that are super satisfying are the ones that people picking at their faces. Why? Why is that so satisfying? You probably think I'm crazy. There's one YouTuber, her name is Dr. Pimple Popper, and oh my gosh, she is just so great to watch. And if I lived out west, I would go out there and have her dig at my face. Alright, so moisture in the bottom, get that out. So I don't really have a very pleasant looking shape here, but I'm going to shape that soon enough. Oh yeah, nice and tall. I'm going to do one more pull pulling it a lot today. One more pull before I shape it. Bam. Awesome. Get the moisture out of the bottom. A little bit of the slurry off the walls. That needs to be done. And then the other tool that I use that I freaking love is my rib tool. And you know what? I'm gonna shape a little more off the bottom there. Makes it easier when I'm trimming later on, and it also keeps the consistency, the moisture consistency even, because you don't want one part of your pot drying out faster than another part. That's super easy to just clean up. Used to listen to music, but then when you hear a song that you don't like, you can't really change the station. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I suppose if I learned how to use Siri, maybe Siri does that. You can let me know. Okay, so I'm going to use my scraper tool here to clean off the slurry, and also I'm going to use this in my shaping. So back down to the bottom, starting at the bottom. I'm not pressing very hard at all. This is actually where I'm going to start pressing from the inside out to start giving my mug some shape. And at this point, my outside hand is the one that's just resting, and my inside hand is the one that's doing the work, although it's really not doing that much work. Tiny amount of pressure. So boom. Oh, it's so awesome to get that slurry off. Now I got some rings. Clean up those rings. Right back up again. So everybody's different. I don't really like throw marks in my work. That's just me. So I like it as clean as possible. I'm gonna keep shaping, and I scrape that off really good so I don't get those lines. The lines that you see right now. I'm going to do a little bit of a tulip shape here. Watched another great video of this Chinese potter. He's freaking awesome. One of the things that he says that a lot of times the Chinese potters will throw really, really sloppy. Not sloppy, but thick. And they don't really care what this form looks like, because once it's leather hard, that's when you can carve the shape into it. And I like that idea, because then I'm a lot easier on myself when it comes to this part of the throwing. I used to, take forever to do this part of the throwing. Get it absolutely perfect and then throw a glaze on it and trim it, and all that effort was just frustrating. So for me, I like to just get that shape up there. Okay, so at this point, I want a nice, even rim for my mug. So what I'm gonna do, I know it's pretty level, but I'm gonna go ahead and level it off with my needle tool. And I'm gonna just carve that in there. Pull that top off. Again, super satisfying. And then, this is the really awesome trick. So I have this leather, this sort of really, really soft leather, and a film container. You can't really buy film anymore, so you have to find this lying around your house. I have it in this so that when I dunk it in the water, it doesn't, I can still find it and it floats, and then it doesn't end up with my reclaimed clay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just get that water off of there, and I'm going to really gently take that and create the lip of my mug, which if you think about, when you go to drink your coffee, nice rounded lip on that mug. Super, super smooth. I'm gonna take this too and also collect a little bit of that inside slurry and clean that up. This is actually the part that always makes me nervous because I'm like, ugh. Get that edge. Here we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to make sure that I get all of that moisture out of the bottom. And I'm going pretty slow here. I'm super cautious at this point. I see I've got one little boop right there. This is where I'll get a little more anal because that's the lip of the mug. You want that to be nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. Okay, take this, get rid of that moisture again. Take a look at the outside. I've got a couple drips, so I'm going to go ahead and use that scraper tool one more time. Again, I'm not following my own rules. Suddenly I'm getting really particular. It's because I'm showing this on video. I can see somebody saying, "Oh, you forgot that one little spot." Thanks, dude. I don't see you throwing this. Well, maybe you are throwing your own stuff and it's way better. Why are you watching my video then? And then that happens. That totally just happened. I got you, bad boy. That one little spot. One of my old instructors would be like, "It's a decorative flaw." No, it pisses me off. Awesome, we'll go around one more time. Because that gouge just wants to ruin my day. Okay, I can live with that. My lip could be done again. Oh my gosh, should we start this over? Hell no. If it doesn't flop, I'll work with it for a while. I mean, for me, this is part of the joy of throwing, honestly. I like the process. And boy, I have had them flop. It's pretty funny. Awesome. Okay. Sweet. So before I take it off the wheel, I'm gonna get that, and of course you're gonna stick right now. Awesome. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut it real quick because I have my cutter across the room. And the other thing that I do is I take my foot off of the pedal so that I don't accidentally hit the pedal and spin the wheel and throw this across the room, because yes, I have done that before. Boom, there we go. So that looks like a fairly giant mug, but once I get a handle on it and the moisture is reduced and we bisque fire it and we glaze fire it, it really shrinks down another 20%. It's pretty awesome. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed.